Tantor Audio, a division of Recorded Books, presents A Stolen Child by Sarah Stewart Taylor, narrated by Aoife Mcmahon. Come away, O human child, to the waters and the wild, with a fairy hand in hand, for the world's more full of weeping than you can understand. From The Stolen Child by W.B. Yeats. Chapter 1.
Guards! Guard an American guard! Guard an American guard!
My partner, Garda Jason Savage, and I are just finishing up our community patrol when we see two boys beckoning to us along the South Circular Road. Jason rolls his eyes at me. We've tried to get to know this little gang of kids who live and go to school in the neighborhood, so that we'll come to seem as familiar as the houses and shops they pass by every day. But they picked up on my accent right away, and now, when they address me, it's always qualified by my nationality. The younger one, a runty, blonde-haired kid named Luke, calls again.
Guards! Guards! American guard and guard!
What is it, Luke? Jason asks when the boys reach us. Are you all right, so? Luke, all baggy school uniform and spindly limbs, looks up at us, his eyes wide.
Guards, you've got to come. Donald's in the drain.
Jason and I exchange a skeptical glance. Are they playing a prank? It wouldn't be the first time the kids have tried to trick us. Our first week on the beat, they put a large doll in a baby stroller and rolled it along the sidewalk, yelling, "The baby! The baby!" and laughed when we raced to retrieve it. But Luke seems genuinely upset, so we follow him to the end of Carlisle Street, almost running to keep up with him. Up ahead, I can see a crowd of kids clustered in front of a house that's under construction. In a perfect little microcosm of the flavor of the neighborhood, the house next to it is already sleekly renovated, with a tasteful, glossy charcoal front door and two planters filled with topiary. The house on the other side has a peeling facade, a rampantly growing rose garden overtaking the iron fence, and row upon row of small animal figurines in the dusty windows. For sale signs are posted in front of a third of the houses in the neighborhood. Let's see now, Jason says soothingly as we get close. What's the trouble? The kids shuffle aside, and we step into the small front garden. It's been completely dug up, and there's a pile of gravel and debris to one side. Luke points to a large, half-covered drain hole, from which we can hear a loud and insistent quacking. Donald's a duck? I ask stupidly.
Yeah, he's going to starve down there. We've got to get him out.
Luke is saying, hopping around excitedly and getting in the way of us seeing anything. Most of the kids in the little gang are Luke's age, 10 or 11, but there are 3 teenagers, 2 girls and a boy, watching from the sidewalk. Their younger counterparts seem to generally trust us, but I've seen these 3 around, and they exude waves of teenage resentment and skepticism about law enforcement. One of the girls has dyed black hair in a severe bob and bangs cut. Her school uniform too big on her thin frame, paired with black tights and heavy black shoes. Her friend has stringy dark blonde hair worn long and straight, a smear of too bright pink lipstick on her mouth, and small eyes surrounded by dark eyeliner. The boy just looks furious with the world. He's tall, broad-shouldered, his face troubled by acne, and he looks like he'd rather be doing anything than participating in the duck rescue mission. Now then, Jason says, yous all step aside, and I'll see what the situation is here. The kids move to the edge of the sidewalk as he looks down into the darkness.
Hello there, Donald. Have you gotten yourself into a fix?
A loud battery of quacking comes from the drain.
He's got a wife down by the canal,
one of the kids says.
I'd say he's worried about whether she thinks he's run off.
Jason and I exchange a glance and try not to smile.
Can you get him out, guards?
Luke asks, his voice high and a little hysterical.
Of course we can,
Jason tells him in a calm, soothing voice.
Now, I'll just move the cover away. Garda D'arcy, will you help me?
The two of us drag the heavy metal cover to the side. He must be pretty far down, I say quietly. Jason takes the flashlight from his vest and shines it into the hole. There's more quacking, and then, out of the blackness, we see the head of a duck, his iridescent head feathers set off by the flashlight.
I think I can reach him,
Jason tells me.
You'll have to hold my feet.
No problem. I didn't start lifting at the gym for nothing. I turn to the kids. Does anyone have a jumper or coat we can put on the ground so Garda Savage can lie down?
Tina,
Luke calls out.
Give us your jumper.
The blonde girl tosses him her fleece jacket. Now I can see a family resemblance between them, which explains the girl's presence here, and he rushes over to lay it down. Jason rolls up his shirt sleeves and gets down on his belly. Once I've got a good grip on his feet, he inches over the drain and I start lowering him down. The quacking becomes louder the lower he goes, and I can feel all the kids waiting behind me. Jason's voice drifts back up to me.
Come on, Donald. I'm trying to help you here. The sooner you let me get you, the sooner you'll be back to your wife in the canal.
Come on, Donald,
Luke blurts out.
Let him catch you.
I've got you, I call down to Jason. If you need another few inches.
Come here to me, Donald,
I hear him say.
Come here, you.
I feel him swinging his arms around, and then he yells out,
Got him.
Give me a hand, I say to the kids, and they all help me pull Jason back up to the edge of the drain and onto the sidewalk. He's tucked the duck under one arm, and as soon as they're back in the light, Donald starts quacking wildly again and trying to break free.
You got him,
Luke shouts. I help Jason stand up.
No, let's take him back to his wife,
he says, and gives an indignant Donald a pat on his head. Making a noisy but triumphant procession, we all follow Jason along the little side streets and back down toward the canal as passers-by stop to find the source of the commotion. Amid lots of quacking and flapping on Donald's part, Jason stoops at the water's edge to release him. There's already a small group of waterfowl there, 3 swans and a half-dozen mallard ducks, and Donald gives a few final quacks and then goes to join them, propelling his feathery body smoothly beneath an overhanging willow tree, the wispy pale green branches reflected on the surface of the water.
There now, I think he was saying thanks a million,
Jason tells the kids.
He'll be all right. Job well done.
Thanks, Gart, Luke says. There are a few more thanks guards, and then they all melt away, the teens still looking bored, bringing up the rear. The dark-haired girl hangs back a bit to walk with the boy, and I watch them go, a little thread of worry tugging at me. I'd guess they're about 15, and I remember what a tough age that was for my own daughter, Lilly, and her friends. Jason and I have learned a bit about some of these kids' home lives, and they're not very stable. The neighborhood is gentrifying quickly, and from what Jason said, it's lost some of the community watchfulness that existed for children when he was growing up here. There are smoothie shops and fancy coffee and million-euro houses. But the neighborhood is full of danger for kids on their own in the afternoons. As if to drive the point home, a familiar figure comes around the corner. I recognize him as a low-level drug dealer named Cameron Murphy, whom Jason and I have interacted with before. He's spent a few months here and there in jail for minor offences, but he doesn't have the air of a hardened criminal. He's not much taller than I am, but he's pumped up every muscle he's got, and he keeps his hair longer and gelled on top to give him an extra couple of inches. He has a Sylvester and Tweety Bird tattoo on his neck, and when he turns his head, the skin wrinkles and Tweety takes on a demonic attitude. Cameron is sucking furiously at a cigarette, keeping his eyes down while still scanning the street for someone he's either looking for or trying to avoid. He slows when he spots us along the canal bank, but he's too smooth to stop or change direction. His body goes rigid, but he keeps coming, still surreptitiously checking for whoever it is in his sights. "Hiya, Cameron," I call out to him. "How are you today?"
Good, very good now," he says. "What's the story yourselves, Garts?"
Jason says,
"Fine, thanks. Anything going on we should know about?"
"I wouldn't say so, no. I'm just out for a bit of a stroll myself."
He nods and walks past us, heading in the same direction as the kids, which makes me nervous. I've seen him talking to Tina and her friend a few times, and I'm pretty sure nothing good is going to come of any friendship between them. "Well now," Jason says once Cameron's gone, straightening his high-visibility vest and patting his chest in a self-satisfied way.
"That feels like a good day's work, though we'll have to keep it quiet. The lads hear about this and will never get out from under it. You'll be Donald Duck D'Arcy for the rest of your life, and I'll be responding to fake calls for injured waterfowl until the day I retire. Yeah, I'd say best not to spread this one around."
My bill is sealed. I gaze up at the blue sky and sunshine and the green dome of St. Mary Immaculate across the canal in Rathmines. Hardly a cloud in sight. I thought it was supposed to rain today.
Sure, it'll be coming later,"
Jason says wisely, reaching up to scratch his forehead.
"I'd say about 4 o'clock.
He's only 30. With thinning hair, he's started rearranging over his scalp in a way that makes him look older. Contemplating the upper atmosphere, patting the beginnings of a belly under his uniform, he could be an ancient country farmer, gauging his chances of getting the hay in today. Jason is a city boy, born and bred only a few streets from where we're standing. But his first posting was as a guard in a smallish town in County Offaly, and he seems to have incorporated a rural sensibility into his personality, even though he's back in Dublin. His blunt, kindly face inspires trust, and he's physically imposing enough to make people think twice before misbehaving. I wore my fleece because it was supposed to be cold, and now I'm sweating, I grumble. Jason just nods and looks upward again, as if things might have shifted in the last 30 seconds. They haven't. The sky is still clear, reflected in the calm ribbon of water. I tug at the collar of my dress shirt and too warm jacket. My uniform still feels strange, too heavy, too conspicuous after so many years in plain clothes as a detective. I resigned from my job on Long Island a year and a half ago, and then finished at the Garda Training College in Temple Moor in August. My friend, Roly Byrne, a detective inspector with the Garda Criminal Investigation Bureau, pulled some strings to get me posted to Dublin, where my boyfriend, Connor, and his son live, and where my daughter, Lilly, is going to school. It feels like I'm right back where I started when I was 25 and a new officer with the Suffolk County Police Department, patrolling the streets, arresting drunks, driving by beaches and parking lots and high schools to make sure nobody was up to anything they shouldn't be, spending enough time on the beat so when something really bad happened, people wouldn't hesitate to let you know. Jason's and my scheduled community patrol has already brought us all the way down Clanbrassil Street to the Grand Canal. We'll keep walking along the canal until we reach Portobello Bridge, and then head north again up Richmond Street as it turns into Camden Street, and then back to the newly finished Garda station on Kevin Street. The skinnier at the top rectangle on the south side of the Liffey and not far from Dublin's city centre that we'll have described once we're done is loosely our patrol area. For the past 2 months since I finished the training I need to work as a Garda officer in Ireland and was paired up with Jason, it's been our job to get to know it, to get to know the people, the businesses, the houses that are empty, the ones that are under construction, the ones that are occupied by families who have been in the Portobello neighbourhood for generations, the ones that have sold to young couples flush with cash from the red-hot Dublin real estate market, and the ones where suspected drug dealers or gang members or pedophiles live. It's taken time to figure it out, to understand how the roads and lanes and alleys all flow together, the networks of streets between the canal and the South Circular Road, once called Little Jerusalem because of the Jewish community that settled there in the early 20th century, and the quiet residential neighbourhoods above that run parallel to Sing Street and up toward Camden Row. I'm just figuring out where the good coffee and lunch places are off Camden Street Lower, the hipster espresso places and health food cafes within easy walking distance of the increasing number of tech-related startups and creative industry offices in the neighbourhood. Our patch is gentrifying quickly, though there's still plenty of street crime, robberies, and drug dealers bleeding east from Rialto and Dolphin's Barn, and many of the kids we come across in the course of our work live in one of the 2 older social housing complexes at the northern end of our beat. I worried about how Jason would adjust to being partnered with a middle-aged American woman with 20 years of police work already under her belt. But he seems to take it all with a relaxed acceptance that will stand him in good stead his whole career. He doesn't have the kind of edgy, multi-layered intelligence that gets you into the specialist bureaus or promotes you to detective, but he has street smarts and an overwhelming sense of calm about him. He's expert at diffusing tensions, in particular talking down belligerent drunks, which I've seen him do quite a few times now. And he has the look of an Irish grandfather from a photograph of the 1950s. People think they know him, even when they don't, and he works it to his advantage. He also has a good rapport with the kids, kind, but a little stern. We're passing the neighbourhood pub just off the canal when my radio unit crackles and the dispatcher gives our call signs. I respond, and a voice comes through with a bit of static. "You near the canal?" "Roger that." The dispatcher says there's been a report of a possible homicide at an apartment complex called Canal Landing. "You know where it is? Unit 201. Jason is listening, and his head snaps up. "Roger that," I say. "Bureau is on the way," the dispatcher says. I tell him we'll head right over. "Shite," Jason says. "That's where we responded to that possible domestic Saturday night." Dread sweeps through me. Yeah, I know. We were on a 4 to midnight patrol Saturday night, talking to a neighbourhood resident about some graffiti on the South Circular Road, when we got a call about a possible domestic violence situation in an apartment complex right on the canal. Someone had heard screaming and fighting and called in to the emergency number. I'd walked past the gated development of apartments many times, one of a pair next to a vacant lot on that section of the canal. Canal Landing is the shabbier one, built on the cheap in the late 90s, with 20 duplex units, 4 to a block, wrapped around a parking lot and small courtyard. The development next to it, called Harbour Quay, is more solid, newer, higher end. On Saturday night, we waited for Canal Landing's property manager to let us in through the gate, and when we asked him if he'd heard the screaming himself, he said, "I didn't hear anything," shrugging as he led us through the quiet parking area, dodging a child's bike lying on the ground and 2 plastic trucks. "I've got a place there on the first floor by the gate, and
One of the tenants knocked on my door, said there was screaming in one of the apartments and to call the guards.
When we knocked at 201, though, a young woman answered the door, dressed in a bathrobe and looking confused when she saw our uniforms. She struck me as legitimately surprised to see us, and when we said we'd received a call about a disturbance, she apologized for the noise, explaining she was watching a loud movie. She gestured to the large-screen television, where a now muted action film was playing, and she seemed fine to us, with no visible injuries on her lovely, fine-boned face. We looked past her into the apartment, which seemed to be otherwise unoccupied, gave her the usual spiel about feeling comfortable reaching out for help, and even left her a card with the number of the Domestic Violence Prevention hotline. We felt fine about leaving and filed a report indicating that we hadn't located the caller, but that the sound was likely the movie the woman in 201 was watching. That was it. I can't even remember her name, though we took it down for the report. When you've responded to a possible domestic and left without arresting anyone, a follow-up call to the address is bad news. A possible homicide at the address is pretty much your worst nightmare. Jason's normally placid face is twisted in worry now.
I guess we'd better get down there and see what's going on,
he says, casting a final glance at the canal, at Donald and his wife and the other birds, carving rippling channels through the water. The skies are darkening now, and I think he must be right. It's going to rain tonight. Chapter 2. The same property manager who was here on Saturday meets us at the gate and says,
"It's 201, same as the other night."
He's dressed in a sweatshirt and work pants, and his hands have spatters of white on them.
"I was painting the trim around back,"
he says when he sees me notice it. "Tell us what happened," I say as he leads us past the parking area and lets us through the outside door of Block 2 to the small lobby. It looks the same as the other night, though now there's a folded stroller propped up against the wall and a stack of cardboard for recycling next to it.
"I was painting around on the canal side, and I noticed the sliding door to her terrace there was wide open. We've had some break-ins and we've asked tenants not to leave the doors to their terraces open unless they're out there. They're practically on the street, so it's a bit tempting for anyone walking by. I knocked a few times at her door and didn't get an answer. Rang her mobile, nothing. I have a master key, so I started to open it. I figured she was out and I'd just latched the terrace door for her, but it was already unlocked. I opened the door and called out. I had a bad feeling, like it was so quiet, and I don't know. I stood at the base of the stairs and called up to her, but something made me go up a ways, and I saw her foot. I thought maybe she'd fallen down, but she was really still. It was pretty clear she was dead, like, and, well, you'll see. So I rang you lot."
His face has a gaunt, greyish look, and he's clutching an unlit cigarette between the paint-splattered fingers of his right hand. He's very shaken, I think, and I can feel how much he wants to light it. There are 4 doors arranged around the lobby. Number 201 is to our left. "What's her name again?" I ask, as we pause in front of the door. "The resident. I've forgotten."
"Jade."
The young woman's face flashes before me. Green eyes, fine-boned face, sharp cheekbones, a curtain of pale blonde hair falling over her face. Jade. Now I remember being grateful that Jason wasn't the kind of male partner who would sneak in a little aside later about how uncommonly hot she was, the comment forcing its way up like a burp. "Wait here." I slowly pushed the door open, calling out, "Garda officers! Is anyone here?" Silence. The small, open first floor of the apartment is very cold and a bit messy. There are piles of laundry lying around, and a stack of dishes teeters in the sink in the small kitchen. A wide bank of windows and a sliding glass door open to a small enclosed terrace that's practically on the street. I see what he means. The low railing around the terrace would be easily scalable. You could almost just step over it. You'd want to be very careful about security. But the sliding glass door is wide open, just like he said. That's why it's so cold in here.
She's upstairs.
From the hallway, the property manager points to the staircase leading to a loft-like second floor. Garda officers, I call again. Jason slips past me and takes the stairs quickly. I follow him, and when I reach the landing, he says,
"In there, Maggie,"
pointing to the doorway of a bedroom. I see a bare foot and bare lower leg on the threshold, and then the rest of her, and I watch as Jason slips on a single latex glove from his jacket pocket. He puts a finger to the woman's neck to check for a pulse. I meet his eyes, and he shakes his head. I already know from the stiffness of her body, the vacant glaze of her green eyes. Her long blonde hair is arrayed like a halo above her on the floor. She's wearing a black t-shirt and a pair of red bikini underpants. Her eyes are open, the skin around them speckled with petechiae, the whites bright with more petechial hemorrhaging, and her neck is obviously bruised, a collar of red and purple on her pale skin. Manual strangulation. Shit. We should have followed up after Saturday. Should have asked more questions. I can feel regret spread through my body, making me nauseous. Jason's guilty look tells me he's feeling it too. We radio in the new details, clear the bathroom opposite the bedroom, then check the terrace downstairs. There is no one out there, just 2 folding chairs and an upside-down wooden milk crate with a bowl filled with cigarette butts on it. I think of the beautiful young woman who answered the door to me and Jason Saturday night, who told us she was fine and the screaming her neighbor heard was just a movie. The woman who's now lying dead on the floor of her bedroom, strangled by someone, probably a boyfriend or a lover, who wanted to be absolutely sure she wasn't gonna get up off the floor of this once modern, now depreciating piece of Celtic tiger real estate. Her mouth is hanging slightly open, as though she's about to talk. A heavy weariness sweeps over me. Everything that is going to come, all the effort, all the manpower, all the expense, could be avoided if she could just sit up and tell us who did this to her. But of course, she won't. She won't ever talk again. I feel my brain shift into gear. When it has been established that there is no hope of resuscitation, the responding officer moves quickly to preserve any and all evidence at the crime scene. Checking my phone, I write down the time we arrived on the scene and the details I've got so far. Then I tell Jason to stand outside the door to make sure no one comes anywhere near to the apartment until the crime scene techs and the divisional detectives and the Bureau of Criminal Investigation detectives arrive. Inside the apartment, I take off my boots and stand close to the front door to look around. I want to get a sense of her space, before they make me go outside to direct traffic while the professionals do their work. I failed her once. Maybe I can find something now that will help us get her killer. I only have a few minutes with her, and I'm going to make them count. There is a narrow table to my right next to the door. It's where she puts her keys in a white ceramic bowl shaped like a cat. 3 or 4 sets of them. All house keys, it looks like. And I confirm her name from the envelope on the top of a pile of mail. Jade Elliot. I climb the stairs in as few steps as possible to take another quick look at her. First, her clothes. Simple black t-shirt, underpants. She was having a quiet evening at home. Except the underpants are red and lacy.
and she's got on mascara and lipstick. A date.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?